I am super excited to share with you an amazing woman, a powerhouse, who's going to share with us her journey and her expertise with regards to her entrepreneurship. I'm delighted that we have tonight Johanna Alba of Alba Designs, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to learn a little bit more about her in just a few minutes. First and foremost, these sessions would not be possible without help from our partners and sponsors. The Founders First Fireside Chat series is sponsored by our host partner, National University System. They've been a great partner to us since we began in 2015. For those of you who may not know, National University is an affiliate within the National University System, which is the second largest private university in California. So it's a great institution. I invite you to go learn more about them. Additionally, our program partners are the SBDC of California, as well as Founders First CDC. And then we also have bank partners that help make this possible. We've got US Bank, Pacific Western Bank, Union Bank, and Wells Fargo. So thanks to our partners for making this happen. Without you, we would not be able to provide this great content to our members as we've had. For those of you who are new to this program, I am Kim Folsom. I'm the founder and CEO and chairperson of Founders First Capital Partners. We are the largest revenue-based funder and accelerator focused on helping fund and grow diverse founder-led businesses. We look at diversity as a very wide celebration of inclusivity. Our founders are women, people of color, military veterans, LGBTQ, as well as in underserved communities. We also have as our affiliate partner, Founders First CDC, which is a pre-funded growth accelerator that focuses on helping grow diverse founder-led businesses. We have 3 different programs that we offer, 12 different cohorts per year. So I invite you to visit foundersfirstcdc.org to learn more about this. And for those of you who may not have known my journey, I launched Founders First in 2015 after founding and growing 6 companies over 20 years, and saw, gosh, there needs to be more amazing diverse founders running large employer-based businesses, and saw that, this is my great opportunity. But enough about me. I want to share with you about our featured speaker tonight, Miss Johanna Alba, who is a sportswear maven, stylist, and enthusiast. Her company, Alba Designs, provides custom suits, garments, and attire that are worn by the most elite professionals in sports, business, and entertainment. Her client roster includes some amazing, most recognizable sports heroes that are been in the market, not just today, but for the last couple decades. And that includes Magic Johnson and even Russell Westbrook. But enough of me telling you about it. We've got this great video that we'd like to share with you to give you some background. So I'm gonna give it to our production folks to take that away.
Hi, Mr. J.
What's up, Johanna?
Okay, so I have a couple questions about the conversation we had the other day. Do you want to stick with a plaid version of the Navy, or do you want to try maybe a pinstripe?
You know what? You should bring both, because I might buy both of them. You never know.
I love you.
I love you too. See you too. Johanna is just special. I trust her, but she's earned the trust by being the best out there in the business. You always want to rub elbows with somebody who is also the best at what they do.
Gosh.
Well, I don't know. You're too short. I can't hug. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay.
When we first met, he said, you need to start your own company. And I said, I'm 20 years old. I don't even know where to begin. But I believe that he saw the potential in me, and he was going to guide me through the whole way and hold my hand, which he has 25 years later.
That is so amazing. Thanks so much for sharing that. And we're gonna switch slide sharing so that we can jump into our questions section. So let me share my screen here. All right, cool. Okay. So a little bit background in preparing for the session. Again, Johanna Alba, her current role is the founder and principal of Alba Bespoke Clothing. It's one of the most sought after celebrity designers in the world. She is one of the first female designers in the sports industry. Alba designs and creates bespoke clothing for over 1,100 professional athletes. Oh my gosh, that is such a big customer base and entertainers. Her clothing are one of a kind suits. She designed those for including Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for his show Ballers. Also Justin Timberlake's Tennessee Kids, the NFL Super Bowl halftime show, and Emmy Award winner Lena White. And she is a supporter. She's supported by a mentor, Magic Johnson. Some other achievements, she has been recognized by the Justin Turner Foundation, the Wiley Center for Autism, Youth Empowerment Initiatives, as well as Indigenous women groups. With that, welcome, Johanna. Are you on mute? Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Hi.
Hi.
I can't see myself.
Oh, okay. I understand. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're so delighted to have you. I wanted to jump into our questions because, oh my gosh, such a fascinating background that you have and accomplishments. You know, when I learned about you and your journey to launching Alba Designs, I just thought, oh my gosh, what an amazing journey. And I also shared when I was speaking with you, my love of sewing. I actually, designed and sewed my wedding gown. That's probably the last big project that I did. But let's jump into it. I'd like to organize our discussion around 5 sessions, some with regards to vision, some with regards to your journey and pathway to launching the business. We're also going to talk about your customer base and other initiatives that you have going. So starting out with the importance of having a vision of success when you're building your business. I know that you mentioned that Magic Johnson connected with you and said you should start your business, but after that phone call, what happened from there?
Oh my goodness. Well, it was actually, I met him. He invited me to his house after an event that I was clothing the cast for, and we were at the after party, and he just looked at me and he grabbed me by the arm and he said, "Something's not right. Are you happy?" And I'm like, "Of course I'm happy. I'm at this amazing event surrounded by all these celebrities." I was 22 at the time, 21, about to turn 22. So I'm like, "This is exciting. Of course I'm happy." And he said, "No, there's something. I need you to come to my house tomorrow at 11 o'clock. And I was like, "Okay." So I got up the next morning, and I've been to his house multiple times, and I just happened to get lost. Like that day I got lost. It took me 2 hours. I kept missing a turn. And, back then, we're talking about 28 years ago now.
Wow.
There's no,
no
phone.
smartphones, no Google
Right.
Maps, all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to print out. It was MapQuest back then. I mean, it might as well have been the Thomas Guide if anyone knows who that is.
Right.
But yes, I got lost. My phone wasn't working. I just pulled over. I took a deep breath, and I was like, I'm going to find his house. And I showed up 2 hours late, and he was still there. And he said, "Come on into his kitchen." And we sat on his little table, and he said, "You need to start your own business and make me 10 suits." And after that, I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do? How am I going to do that?" He said, "You'll figure it out. Just make it happen." And I left his house with just like all this. I couldn't even explain it at the time, but I was going to, I was going to go for it. I really had nothing to lose. I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. So I went for it, and I drove around the garment district downtown LA for weeks, and I'm crying in the corners, and I couldn't find a tailor, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I just pulled over again. And I looked to the right, and there was a tailor shop. It said in big letters, tailor shop. So I went in there, I pulled in, and I said, can you make me 10 suits? Here are the measurements. They said yes. I deliver it about a week and a half later. Nothing fit. It was terrible. I had to start all over. But that's where I learned, make one suit first, alter it, adjust it, change the pattern, and then make the rest. And I still go by that as we speak. So that's pretty much it.
That is fantastic story. And that model applies to so many businesses. So many people think, oh, I've got this idea and I'm going to all of a sudden create 100 or 1,000, as opposed to going through and doing what you did with regards to your proof of concept and making certain that it's right, having it be a super success before you go on forward. But curious, because, again, I'm another seamstress. Would love to hear about your story started into, what was your journey before you got that call, from learning to sew, just if you could give us a snapshot of what that was like.
Absolutely. So I'm from the Philippines, and my parents migrated out here. I was like a year old, and I remember living in an apartment with a 2-bedroom apartment, and my father loved sports, and we would sit on the floor, and my mother would teach me how to sew. So we couldn't afford to buy, a lot of clothing. I'm one of 4 siblings. So my mother taught me how to sew at 6 years old. I was 6. I was sitting on the floor, sewing for all my dolls, making clothes for myself, and watching sports at the same time. So talk about full circle. Here I am making clothes for professional athletes and entertainers. So that was it. My mother taught me how to sew, and from there on, I made like my prom dress, and just like you said, you did your wedding dress. I actually made my wedding dress too.
Actually, I made my prom dress as well, but the biggest project was my wedding dress. How about training? I know we talked a little bit before you went to college before starting your business, but you actually got involved to apply what you were doing in the whole clothing while actually doing something else with regards to your major in college. Can you share a little bit about that?
I had no idea I was going to be in the fashion industry. I knew that I loved, to sketch and make clothes, but I had no idea I was going to end up in this route. I wanted to be a preschool teacher. Mm-hmm. So I started working when I was 13 years old. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I knew that my parents, weren't going to be able to afford buying a car for me. So I started working at 13, blowing up balloons, saving money. I purchased my first car at 16, and I had a car note that I had to pay. Mm-hmm. And, so I ended up getting another job at a tuxedo shop. So I did that as work experience my senior year of high school. So I actually went to summer school to get all my general ed out of the way. So when I became a senior in high school, I would be able to leave early and go to work experience. So I started working at a tuxedo shop, and then at the same time going to school at West Valley Occupational Center to get my degree in child development. So that's what I really thought I was going to do once I graduated from high school. And I took all my credentials, and I went to Pierce College. I went to Santa Monica College as well. But I ended up getting my degree in child development, and I was making $8 an hour. Mm-hmm. So I knew I also moved out of my house right out of high school. So I had all these bills, that were just building up, and I opened up credit cards, and I was maxing that all out. And I tell you, being debt free is the most amazing feeling in the world. But at that time, no one really educated me on, you're paying 24.5% in interest rates. And at that time, I was just working and just paying my bills, but I did have to get a second job, and that was at the tuxedo shop. So I would work, teach school from 8:30 to 12:30 every day. And then I would work at the tuxedo shop from 1 to 9. And then I would work on weekends, and even Sundays, 12 to 5. So I was working 7 days a week just to pay my bills. And I was getting promoted each time and ended up running the highest volume tuxedo shop in the country in Beverly Hills. And I was like, this is great. You know, I was making, I think, $40,000 at 18 years old, 19 years old. I'm like,
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
40 years. So I was like, I'm great. I can move up in this company. And then ironically, a few years later, I think I'm 20 years old. Rodney Peete and Holly Robinson Peete were getting married, and Magic Johnson's son was the ring bearer.
Wow.
So that's how everything came about, and how I was introduced to him, and then how we were able to build our relationship from there.
Wow. That's amazing. Thanks so much for sharing that story. So you went through, going back to the first 10 suits that you got the support with. Curious, and I know I asked you this when we were preparing for the session. How did you decide to finance your business when you first got started? That's always something that business owners want to know. Gosh, I have this idea of doing something, but I don't have the funding to do it. Can you share a little bit of insights as to what you did once you decided to take the leap and launch your business, how you financed it?
Oh, here comes that credit card again. And so, yes, in my business, it's a little unique because it is custom clothing. So we would collect a deposit up front, and that would really basically pay for the cut, make, and trim, and the whole process of making a suit. And then the balance was profit. So then I put the profit aside, and I just kept building from there. And it's almost like how I built my business with my clientele. You see, I have 1,100 clients as of now, but that is 28 years of building those relationships. And it's you get one client on one team, they refer you to another a teammate, and it's like a domino effect. So that's really what happened. You do one suit, the profits I put aside, another suit. Now I'm selling packages. I put packages together because with basketball there's 82 games. So that's how I decided to increase my sales, by doing that.
Okay. Very cool. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that, because I think that I want to dive into a little bit of customer, but you are not only unique because of the business and the niche that you, as a designer of great clothing, but in a male dominated industry. I mean, you have the sports industry, sports athletes and celebrities. You started with Magic Johnson. So any other leagues that you support? Can you share some insight about what encompasses your market?
Well, so like I said, you have one client on one team. And when I started building my business, I said, how can I get into these? I would ask so many questions. I asked Magic, give me 5 things that you can see that I can improve in.
So smart, such a smart thing to do.
Right. So I asked everybody. So one of the things that he said was the time frame, because a lot of people were getting their custom suits out of the country, and it would take 4 to 6 weeks to have it delivered. So I found and educated and taught tailors here. So I'm providing jobs for tailors here in Los Angeles. I now have 20 that work with me today that were with me from day one.
Right.
So it was, I had to ask questions. He said the time frame. So I came up with a 2-week turnaround time, because back then, people were waiting 4 to 8 weeks. I'm like, I could get this done in 2 weeks. Great. And then, when you have your own production house, you can manage the flow of all of that. So again, till this day, we're able to do that because we have our own production house. And the other was pricing. And that's why I came up with the whole package. So if you purchase 5 suits, I'll throw in the shirt and tie complimentary. So if I buy it individually, it's a lot more expensive. So I'm kind of giving the client an incentive to purchase more. And then the other was customer service.
Mhm.
You know, it's a follow through, not a one and done, sale. I'm here for the long run, and is why I've been doing it for so long.
Wow, that's fantastic. And especially if you look at the way that the athlete's life is, I mean, I don't know if I shared this with you, and I'm, far from being considered an elite athlete, but, I did, compete in school, high school and college. And as an athlete, you're so focused on just your profession, your personal performance, and also your mental and health, the attire piece, it's a hygiene thing you got to do. But if you can have somebody who has your back with all of that, that is ideal. That is the ideal situation. And they can be looking out for you with, and also especially the newer athletes, that are coming in. Can you talk? Well, so let me finish about the niche. So we talked about basketball. Can you share a little bit as any other leagues that you're involved with?
Yeah. So again, I like to challenge myself, and I just do not give up. So I was like, how can I get into this facility? As far as now, I'm talking about football, because how I have 1,100 clients is because it's all year round. So like right now it's football season, but we're also getting ready for NBA, and then we're also getting ready for MLB playoffs. So it's like year round. Like,
Right.
what I did was I said, who is in charge of the players for NFL? Well, they have player personnel. So I got in touch with the player personnel, and I said, this is what I have. This is my company. This is what I have to offer. There's dress codes. So we were invited to come on the facilities during training camp for football. And all the player personnels know each other. So again, domino effect, they all introduced me to the different player personnels on every team. And then sure enough, I'm on almost all of them.
Oh, that's great. So, and
it is a little different now because they're not letting a lot of people on the facility, but just recently, and because of the relationships that I've built, we just did a Dress for Success seminar with the San Francisco 49ers. With the rookies. So we're part of like the rookie transition, and teaching them, that you are a brand, and that you have to dress, for success in your business attires. And that's why a lot of organizations have dress codes.
Yeah, I know that the NBA, I think, probably has the toughest of the three, right?
Well, they didn't used to. It was back in the days, they were showing up in like 4X t-shirts and baggy jeans, but they enforced a dress code. And luckily enough, a lot of my veterans were purchasing suits for all the rookies. So right when they enforced the dress code, and then that's how I built even more relationships.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Well, congratulations to you.
Yeah.
And also the coordination between the different leagues, because it is such that all year round there's, and you're not just dealing with them in season, there's preseason, and then there's the whole draft associated with them. So when you think about the value chain, you probably have the opportunity to get introduced to them earlier on in their career as well.
I do. And that's why we just continue to grow our client base, is because of that. So it's been exciting, but it's hard work. You really have to keep in touch because there's so many people involved. It's not just the player, it's their agent, their financial advisors, their parents, their wife, their significant other, all of that you're building relationships. It's funny, a lot of the young ones, I'm closer to their parents than I am with the actual, player. It's important to have a relationship with the entire, the family and the whole nine.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, that's what I was going to, I guess, transition next is the profile of your customer base. Because when you look at it as you get introduced to them, either it could be through the teams, or it could be before they start the teams, like at the draft mode. And then when they transition out and they become, a business person or celebrity, I mean, being able to focus on the ideal customer and your customer, primary customer, secondary customer, tertiary customer, that probably changes over time.
Right. So, well, this year I did 15 weddings.
Oh my gosh.
Exciting. It's not, again, I'm not just dressing them for their season. I'm dressing them for events and fundraisers and foundations and then their weddings. So just being able to, again, really keep in touch with them. And what I do, I have a system that I use, and I like to share this with everybody because it works for me. But one day my mentor looked at my phone and he said, "How many contacts do you have on your phone?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know how to look it up." So you scroll all the way to the bottom, and after Z, there's a number.
Right.
And it's how many contacts you have. I had 2,400 contacts. And he said, "Out of those 2,400 people, who do you actually speak to?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I never really counted." And he said, "Delete 10 people from your phone every day that have no value in your life anymore, that are toxic, just that you don't want to move on from."
Mm-hmm.
And I still do that today. Actually, it's fun. But I delete, 10 people. I deleted 10 people from my phone every day. It took me, almost a year or so. Sometimes I would do more, sometimes I would do less because I had to think about it. But he said, "Look, if you delete them and they call you back, it's your decision if you want them in your life or not." And so that's a lot of the things that I practice and with my lifestyle is, surrounding yourself around people that genuinely care about you and then want to, see you succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I do. I go through my phone. I started my A's, and then it gives me the opportunity to A, so and so, delete or send him a message and say, him or her a message and say, "How are you? How's life? How's your family?" And let them respond. And it's not always about clothes.
Right.
If they want to bring up clothes and say, "Hey, by the way, I actually have an event to go to and I need a suit," that's great for me. But it's also, just me genuinely caring about how are you. And so I think a lot of people don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
People don't call and just say, "How are you?" So that's
right.
important.
Yes. And if you can make the practice of doing that 10 contacts, relationships, connection on a daily basis, you'd be amazed. I mean, heck, 10 a day, 360 days, that's a lot of people that you can connect with when you think about it that way. That's a really great tool. So as a woman and a woman of color, how has this been for you growing your business? You've been at this for, a couple of decades. Has it changed at all for you when you started versus now versus some of these, diversity inclusion initiatives? What would welcome to get your perspective?
Well, obviously, it was challenging. Again, you mentioned I was one of the first females in this male dominant industry. Suits were made by men for men, start way back. And I just, again, always challenged myself. I said, "This is what I want to do, and I'm going to be really good at it."
Right.
It's that, just I'm a visual person. I'm a designer. So I would put sticky notes everywhere. And, I want a house when I'm 28. I want this convertible BMW. There's all these materialistic things that are irrelevant now, but I'm a visual. So those are things that I had to do to really, I'm going to get into this facility today. I am going to meet 10 people. And I share this a lot with people too. I used to go and sit at a hotel lobby because I knew the baseball players were going to come in and that's where they were staying, the away team, the visiting team. And I would sit in the lobby and I would go up to everybody and say, "I'm a designer. I want to make you some suits." But for every 10 no's, I knew there were 5 yeses.
That's fantastic.
So I would not leave that hotel until I had 5 contacts in my phone. And then, I learned this actually from the tuxedo shop. They did a lot of sales, exercises on how to close a sale, and I continue to do that. So one is the initial greeting, it's the "Hi, how are you?" It's the warm-up conversation. Where are you from? Because then that's when you start to create a conversation. And that's what I still do today when I meet someone. So where are you from? Because I know that I have a connection somehow.
Right.
And I always feel there's like 1 degree of separation with someone. And I've traveled the world. So if you say, hi, I'm from Wisconsin, I'm like, oh, my best friend went to Wisconsin and she was on the ski club. And, and you make them comfortable and you make them feel comfortable with who you are and you open up that conversation. So that's like warm up conversation. And then you get into the sales part of it. And I'm a soft sale because I know I'm not going anywhere, and that's how I built my business also. I didn't want to get too big too fast. I had to really, just like I did with magic, start with one suit.
Right.
And, and then really just take it from there. So I still use a lot of the things that I've learned from and really put it into practice.
So you bring up some really great strategies that I think are really important. When you think about, if you can recall, you were saying it was pre-smartphone that you started your company. And you started with the first 10 suits from Magic Johnson to where you are today. Your growth and scaling. Your business, you said you have 20 designers. That's just amazing. So how do you, so not only is it, what you sell, it's also about people. So how did you learn to overcome that and grow that skill set as far as being leading a big organization?
Yeah, that was also challenging. I would hire people to help them and not necessarily, how do I phrase this? So I always hired people because I saw potential in them, like Magic saw potential in me, but it didn't necessarily mean they were a good fit.
Right.
So I've had, quite a few challenges finding the right people to work with us, finding the right team.
Right.
And I look at it like every sport. Every year you get a rookie. That rookie has to figure out how to mesh with the rest of the players. And if the rookie could get traded, if they're not, if they're not compatible with the team. So it took me a while. I actually have 20 total, including my tailors, including my 27, including my production manager. My mother actually runs my production house. And so she helps with navigate with all the tailors. And then I run the whole design team aspect of it. But it's really taking care of them and showing your appreciation. And that they want to feel appreciated, just like I want to feel appreciated. So I think that's where I fell short in a lot of my areas, where I was so focused on building the business and really not focusing on our team and encouraging them and, believing in them and, really getting. Today I posted on Instagram, one of my designers, he just made a suit for someone who just won the Tony Awards. And I was like, I'm so proud of you. Like I love watching my team excel. So again, all the energy that I put in my clients, I need to put the same energy with my employees.
Yeah. No, that's really, really super, super important because without the team, you can't grow. You can't, without the team, there's no business, because you have 1,100 clients, you have a lot of things that have to be moving that you're not, able to execute on, personally, so that's super, super important. So when you think about, the actual strategies on growth and expansion beyond suits, how did you decide to add additional products? Like what is the process do you use, not just to deliver on your business, but to work on your business, different strategies, techniques, and all of those things?
That's a great question, because I still use the same concept when I started my business. So I stay in my lane because I know what I'm what we're good at. And I know that what we're good at is going to help us grow. So I've tried other avenues, and, I tried to have my own shoe line, and I try to have my own jean collection, but our bread and butter is really our customer service and the custom suit aspect of my company. So that's what it's the relationships that are going to introduce us to more clients in the future is really what helps my business scale. So we're still, they say, what if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Still just stay in my lane. I know what we're good at. I know what, will make our company profitable. And I just stick to that plan.
And so how do you pick partners? Because I've got to think that there's so many people who have said, oh, come on, I want to partner with you, please. So how do you go through and do that?
Oh, I tell everybody to process and take a deep breath. Because I've had partners in the past that I wasn't equally yoked with, and it became, a mess, and it was more draining than it was, we weren't moving forward. We just kept
You guys weren't aligned. Yeah.
We were not aligned. And so I decided to, it's just my company, and I'm going to run it the way that I know how. And as far as taking a deep breath and processing, I've made so many mistakes partnering with people that now I just say, let me get back to you because I need to process, and I need to make sure, that it makes sense.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we have to be happy. And we, I used to have a business prior to this, to Alba, and I didn't want to come to work walking on eggshells. I wanted to come to work and exude energy to help people grow in whatever skills, that they have.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for sharing that. And I also appreciate your sharing about you've made, I call them mistakes. It's learnings, because each of those learnings, you learn what worked and what didn't, and so many people look at the successes and they don't realize that along the way you have those challenges. And especially right now with we're in times of COVID, for a lot of small businesses, this is a really, really super tough time. So be curious to know, how has your business impacted at all with regards to COVID?
Well, that's funny you ask, because I was going crazy. I use my hands a lot. From, picking out fabric, measuring, everything. I'm old school. I like to write everything down. I purchased a sewing machine. It's actually right here, right next to me. And I decided to make masks. I had to reteach myself how to sew again. So we made masks. All the proceeds, we donated it to shelters, but it had to help me stay busy and focused. And but the blessing behind it is that there were some production companies that were still filming movies. A lot of COVID protocol. I mean, I was getting tested 2-3 times a day, where I filmed a movie with Uzo Uba, who she won an Emmy for she won an Emmy for Orange is the New Black, but I was involved with in treatment. Okay. So that actually kept me busy. I did all her suits for that show. So we were still working to an extent, but I knew at the end of the day, everything's going to happen the way it's supposed to. And I got to spend more time with my daughter, who now I just dropped her off in Eugene. She's now a duck. She's going to University of Oregon. So there's so many blessings in disguise. And what I try to, what I would like people to know is, yes, you're going to go through things. I hit rock bottom when I left my last company, and that was a challenging time for me. But at the end of the day, it's like, I have everything that I need at this moment.
So you talked a little, thanks so much for sharing that. Can you talk a little bit about continuous improvement? Like you talked about, asking Magic, what 5 things could I do to improve? How do you consistently bring in that continuous improvement methodology to the rest of your business?
That's a great question as well. I continue to ask questions. I mean, you can never stop learning. So I surround myself around executives. One of my dear friends is an executive for the Dodgers. Another one is an executive for the Lakers. They're on my advisory team. And I think it's really important that you surround yourselves around executives also. You can share all the different avenues and you keep learning. I will never stop learning. I take advantage of every moment that I have with the Magic Johnson, with the CEO, with you. Like I'm learning a lot from you as we speak. So I'm honored to be on your Fireside Chat. So thank you for having me. But it's very important to there's always signs, look for it.
Oh, great. And you also give back. Talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that you do. You talked about the mask, but I know you do things with youth. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Our core value is giving back. And whether it's the community or whether it's where I'm from in the Philippines, it really started with my daughter. When she was 6 years old, there was a tsunami in Japan. And so I'm a single mother. So the best advice that my sister ever gave me was to have a routine with your daughter. So she wakes up at 7, you feed her. She takes a nap from 1 to 2. Like it has to be routine because then they get immune to that routine. So growing up, she's always come to work with me. She was attached to my hips and she was born. I would bring her in the strollers and she grew up with my clients as well. So it was really important for me to, bring her around, but it was 6 years old. She was 6 years old. Every Friday we have sushi. Every Sunday we would go bowling and have brunch. So those were our opportunities for my daughter and I to discuss like the week's events. So when she was 6, she said, "Mom, I really want to help the people in Japan. What can we do?" So we're throwing ideas back and forth at sushi. And she's like, no, none of that sounds right. And then Saturday morning, I hear her little footsteps running to my room. She says, "Can I invite Hannah over, her best friend?" And I said, "Absolutely." She gets a bed sheet, covers it up, covers our dining table up, starts bringing her paint over, and she starts painting pictures. And then they walked throughout my community to sell the pictures, and the pictures say, "Save Japan, help Japan." And that day, in like an hour, she raised $100. And she came back and she's like, "Oh my gosh, we had $100. What can we do?" And then we're again, sharing ideas. The following week, she had a paint party at the park, invited a few of my clients, all her friends. She raised $2,800.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So what we did with that is I said, okay, now we're going to go to the Philippines because she's never been. So I ended up taking her, we saved the money. I ended up taking her to the Philippines when she was 11. We went there. My great grandfather has a school out there, and we purchased all like computers, sewing machines, printers, all of that for the school. And so it's just giving back, just full circle, giving back to our family. Legacy, the legacy of my family is really important to me. So we made that a routine. Every other year, we go to the Philippines and we raise money and we get them, the necessities that they need.
That's fantastic. And also such a legacy to set up that value system with your daughter. That's just amazing. That is just amazing. And then you also do you started a program for youth. Can you talk a little bit about that one?
Well, I teamed up with Big Brothers Big Sisters in Los Angeles. And a couple months ago, this was just my passion project. It was so amazing. I asked the president, Lauren, to share 8 children that may want to design their own outfits and then walk on the runway and showcase, the designs that they've made. And then I would pair them up with one of our celebrity athletes that would escort them down the runway. So when I met with each of them individually, I started asking them questions. What are their favorite colors? What do you like to do for fun? This, that, and the other, and really get to know them. And I saw myself in them and a lot of them. It was so
Great.
emotional. It was so emotional because I'm like, oh my God, I was you.
Mhm.
It was just an incredible experience for me. But then to watch them, walk down the runway and they're confident and they feel like so much love. That's a blessing for me.
Oh yeah, and that's such a life-changing moment for those students, to let them know that that's possible. So congratulations to you for doing that.
Yeah.
Couple more questions. If you were to meet the 21-year-old Johanna Alba, what advice would you give her about her future?
Don't say yes to everybody. I was such a yes girl. I was like, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do that. But it was stressing me out so much. Um, you know, in all honesty, what I would say to her is take your time and don't surround yourself around toxic people that just want to, that are either envious of you or, just they don't have the same mindset or whatnot.
Mhm.
I would say, be happy in every decision that you make. I tell everybody to process. I wish I could have processed back then, and that's where I made a lot of mistakes that I've learned from. And just really don't burn any bridges. Did you say one thing? Because I think I keep adding.
Oh no, this is great. This is great. Yeah, I mean, I tell you, all such great advice. When you think about it. And how have you used mentors and advisors? You mentioned about an advisory board. You mentioned about magic. I mean, this is great that I mean, so many businesses don't have advisors or advisory board. How did you go about doing that? And how do you use them?
That's amazing. I'm going to send you Magic's book because that's what he did when he stopped playing basketball. He surrounded himself around financial people,
Mhm.
and he surrounded himself, and it's in his book, around like real powerful people that were successful, and he wanted to be just like them. And here he is, a billionaire, and it's
Mhm.
because he, and I was saying this earlier, when you're around people that you can learn from, you can learn. I just recently, well, it was until like 10 years ago when I realized that Magic was my mentor. I didn't really call him my mentor until I started Alba, because I would just watch his actions. It was how he took care of his employees. His assistant's been with him just as long as I've known him, for over 25 years. How he treats them, routine. They eat lunch every day at 12:30. They pray before they eat. These are things that I witnessed.
Mhm.
So that's just really, really important to me.
Mhm. And you mentioned about your advisory board. Can you share about how many folks that you have in your advisory board and how often you guys meet?
It's very small. It's 4 people, and each varies, but there's one, it's once a month. We make an effort to have lunch.
Mhm.
Another one, it's like he checks up on me every day. Another one is more like, you got to get a good lawyer. That's another mistake that I learned from. Make sure you have representation. Make sure, this is what I would tell my 21-year-old self as well. Read everything. Do not sign anything without having representation. That was one of my biggest learning
Mhm.
experiences. Please, very important. Get a good financial advisor, get a good lawyer, and then just surround yourself with a great team that want to help you succeed.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic, and such important, great advice to share with our listeners, because so many people think California is the do-it-yourself state, and so many people think, oh, I can do it. I can do everything. I don't need professionals. And it's like, oh my gosh, then you must be wanting to really write big checks to get out of stuff, because it's either you're going to pay now or you're going to pay later, and it's easier to pay now and take the time rather than pay later, because it always costs much more.
It really.
So you also, as you shared, you're a single mom running this phenomenal business. What advice would you give to some of the moms that are out will listen to this and about, running a business while raising a healthy, child that will be a great contributor to our communities?
Well, I have to say this, and I shared that she's been attached to my hips since she was born. They are watching every single thing that you do. Funny story is my daughter was 2 years old, and I was at the dentist, and my car got towed. And so I was calling, and every time, I leave messages for my clients, I say, call me back. My number is 818-266-2080. Those are her first words or numbers she memorized, because I was saying it every day. Mm-hmm. Call me back. She memorized my phone number when she was she's probably 3 years old. Mm-hmm. But it was just incredible. They listen, they're watching. And so for me to build my business, I knew that I had to do it with integrity. I knew that I had to do it, with love. And at the end of the day, all I was trying to do was support her, mm-hmm. Support my family. So at the end of the day, this business is for her.
That's great. That's great. So with all of this, what do you do to practice self-care and to help you create balance?
So important. Everybody, please, you have to do it. What I tell everybody that throughout the day, you have to breathe. People get caught up in the moment that they don't take the time to just, it's okay to sit in a corner for 5 minutes and think about, and process and think about your day and breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. I use that exercise. I live in Calabasas, and my production house is in downtown. Pre-COVID would take me 2 hours to get there. So I would drop my daughter off at school at 8:00. I wouldn't get to work until 10. I had to leave at 11 just to pick her up, from school again. So I'm sorry, I had to leave at 1 to pick her up at 3. I was at work for 3-4 hours, but I was driving for 4 hours a day. Mm-hmm. So that was my time alone. No music, 2 hours there. I'll listen to, Joel Osteen if I want to get lifted up a little bit. And, but it was, that's what I do for me, is really silence, peace, breathe. And I get massages every other weekend.
That's a plus. I just had one last weekend. It's a must. It's a must.
Yes.
And what about for fun? What do you do for fun?
My family is everything. Mm-hmm. So I have a big family. I mentioned I have 3 other siblings, and I have 9 god kids.
Oh wow!
The country that I have to keep up with. Mm-hmm. So really on the weekends, it's spending time with my family, my siblings, and my significant other. He actually lives in Atlanta, who Magic actually introduced me to as well. Mm-hmm. We just celebrated 11 years. He used to play basketball professionally in the NBA for 14 years, but he lives in Atlanta. So we've been doing this long distance thing for 11 years, and it's been great. And so, yeah, that's it. Spend time with my family. It's my favorite thing to do.
That's great. Wow. Well, you have been just so generous with sharing your life story and words of wisdom and advice. Is there any idea, insight that you'd like to share that we might not have covered as part of our conversation tonight?
There's always things in the works. We are planning another charity event during Super Bowl weekend, because it is here in Los Angeles. So I'm really excited about that. The Rams and the Chargers are hosting. Mm-hmm. So we're always working on something where we can get back to the community. So we're in the works. We're just getting all the details together, but that is something that will be happening soon.
Well, I'd be happy to help you if you could use an extra hand or support. So I'll.
One advice I'll actually share with people: it's okay to ask for help.
Yes, that is one of the most powerful things. That is one of the most powerful things that you can do, is to say, I need this assistance. It's critical. It's critical.
It is.
That's great. Wow. So aside from this community event, do you have some other special things planned as part of the Super Bowl coming up?
No, I'm just excited to be back and traveling again. So I actually leave tomorrow on the red eye to go to Charlotte. And then I'm going to Washington. Then I come home for a few days and I go to Miami. So I'm really excited to just start traveling and getting back, to work.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. Oh my gosh, amazing, amazing, amazing woman you are, and a fantastic business. And thanks so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. And we'll look out for the community events that you're doing as part of the Super Bowl. Thank you so much. And I'll look forward to that book that you mentioned from Magic Johnson as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.